in.
Chair.
Hey, we do not have form, so we're just gonna talk about some informational things that we have going on. Chip, man, I know you got a hard stop, so just kind of give us a advisor's update from your perspective on things that you've been working on with us and for us.
Yeah,
And
what
Chip, we have some guests in the room. So would you be so kind to introduce yourself and share who you are just for the benefit of the guests in the room?
Sure. Chip Sutherland with Baird, and our engagement with the partnership is to help the partnership facilitate relationships. Also on the, our day-to-day work at Baird and Public Finance, which is my business unit, is public finance work, which is helping borrowers, issuers borrow money and figure out how to borrow money, that kind of thing. But I call the partnership a little bit of a special assignment, given the connections that the partnership is making across the Commonwealth to bring investment into that 13 square mile area. Our role at Baird is to be a little bit of a jack of all trades, to be, the partnership doesn't have a ton of staff and it needs helping hands, and we come it from the finance side of things. So that's for what it's worth is our engagement with the partnership. The you all may be aware that those new to it, but the partnership's going to participate in a tax increment financing program that should sustain on an annual basis substantial investment into the partnership. And so our engagement with the Department of Revenue through other work that we do is also part of our assignment. So I hope that's not too long, Rita, but that's a little background on what we're doing here. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the engineering proposal and that kind of thing, because that's kind of the heart of what the partnership's going to be about. So our update, frankly, for this month is we did meet with Republic Bank. Rita and I met with William and Logan, the president of Republic Bank, and it was as engaged as it could possibly be for Logan. Republic Bank, he understands that bank being the I don't want to say the largest footprint in Kentucky, based in Louisville, but if it's not, it's one of. But really has a passion for investing in marginalized neighborhoods, and he connected with Rita on that. And I think we can, of course, with Williams' help there, setting things up, but the partnership can look forward to relying on Republic Bank in the coming time to step in with support for whatever that level of support means is to be determined. But the partnership has solidified and built upon the relationship it has established with Republic Bank, and it was super positive. That's the main thing.
I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I do know that Republic is very engaged, and we have a great history. Laura has a great history with the bank as well, and it's just, I think that, like I said, when the time comes and as we continue to build what the bank can do or how they can do it, would definitely be at the table to try to help in ways that we can. I am gonna go back and just call the meeting to order like we did, and then since we do have Michael and Alicia on the phone now, I would like to look at the minutes of the previous meeting of May the 28th, and if we could get those approved. I think, Michael, if you and Alicia have looked over those and don't have any questions or changes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Alicia? I don't know if she stepped away because I just texted her to turn her camera on.
Okay.
You could just say if there's no objection.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there are no objections to the minutes, they will be approved. All right, thank you. Now, we do have guests here, and I would like, for us to, introduce ourselves. Laura, if you wanna if you wanna introduce our guests and then have them introduce themselves,
Yeah.
they can do that. And would like for the board members to just introduce themselves. Mike, tell who you're representing, what area.
Mike Nagel, Portland Neighborhood, Representative.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Looks like Alicia kind of rolled off.
She's having connection issues. So she's probably, she'll come back on.
I'm William Summer from Republic Bank and representing the financial institutions.
And you've all met me. I'm Laura Douglas. I'm the interim president and CEO. I've enjoyed working with this gentleman here to my left, Travis Fox, and I'll defer to him to introduce his team to him.
And then Amy too.
Amy, do you want?
I'm Amy Kovich with Tag on Me. This is our offices and I am the board's counsel.
Very important. Rita?
She's connecting.
Yeah.
Yes, I know everyone in the room. So good to see all the wonderful faces. And Alicia, are you with us now? I know you're having some connection issues. Alicia
I
will.
am.
Oh, great. Will you introduce yourself and share with our guests? Oh, she just lost her again. Anyway, are you there?
Can
There
y'all
she
hear me?
is.
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of days off, so I apologize.
No, that's
But I
okay.
am Alicia Burns. I represent the Shawnee neighborhood. That's my introduction. Is that okay? Ms.
Thank
Miller?
Okay.
And thank you for being here too on the day off. All right, Laura.
All right. This is an exciting day as far as I'm concerned. It's a very exciting day. You know that we have certain milestones as an organization. We were required to have our 9 neighborhood meetings and solicit feedback from the folks in those neighborhoods. And part of what we received back from those folks in the neighborhood, you will hear reflected today in the report that we are about to review. Our partner in developing this information for presentation today is Cornerstone Engineering. I think they're about, 19 years old, a little.
21.
Oh. They operate in 12 states. Is that accurate?
We operate in 7 different states, but
Okay.
we have about 9 offices.
Okay, and their main office.
We're licensed in 14 states.
Okay.
Okay.
Headquarters is here in Louisville, Kentucky. Rita and I asked them if they would work with us to develop criteria for how we plan to distribute funds to the public. And this is very, very critical. This is coming right on the heels of these neighborhood meetings that we all participated in. And what you will see as we go through the fund criteria is certain parts are reflected of the information that we heard back from the community. For instance, we decided that we were going to have 3 focus areas, and Travis is going to go into detail on what the qualifications will be to receive funding in any of these focus areas. And the focus areas will be small business development. Remember, the folks in the neighborhood indicated to us that they were aware of many small businesses that perhaps needed just a little bit of assistance to get to the next level. So one category we'll be going over is small business development. Another will be traditional on large business enterprises. These would be businesses that may be relocating or opening an office here, or they would be the traditional large developers. And finally, that third category that Travis is going to outline for us has to do with the folks that the people in the neighborhood identified as
Yes, Mike.
be out there doing good work. And the third category is nonprofit businesses and entities. So again, categories will be small businesses, the traditional large businesses and developers, and nonprofit entities.
And I'm trying to see why my screen is not,
Okay.
um,
Now, one other thing to keep in mind is we have been working on this criteria for fund eligibility for a number of weeks. The leadership group in the board consisting of the board chair and the chairs of the standing.
1 second.
committees have had an opportunity to review the initial draft and to have input. So in the version that we'll be reviewing today, you will notice that their input has been considered and is reflected. I can say is reflected in the document that we'll be going through. We just ask for a word of caution and for us to keep in mind what our processes are. This document is not in final form. It is a
Right.
draft document, meaning it is not yet in the public domain. So it's not appropriate for us
And
to
it's
tear it
here.
outside of
Okay,
board
let me do
minutes. So I ask that each of you keep that in mind and just use this document as a working document. Now, there'll be a larger discussion about this particular proposal for the fund eligibility criteria
There we go.
at the upcoming board meeting, and an opportunity for all board members to ask questions and to have input. So
Sorry.
this document is not yet final. So Travis, let me defer to you, and if you would introduce your fabulous team, all whom Rita and I have gotten an opportunity to meet and to talk with before. I think this.
And let me just make sure that everybody on screen can hear. Mike, can you hear okay? And Alicia? Okay, good deal. And sorry about that. I hadn't downloaded the other document. She said that's why it wasn't
Okay.
coming up.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all having us here. My name is Travis Fox. I'm the Director of Business Development with Cornerstone Engineering. We have with us today John Daniels, our Director of Operations. We have Claudette Collins, Project Manager with the team, and we have Chella Subram, our Founder and President. Cornerstone Engineering was founded 21 years ago in Chella's basement, with just himself and hope and faith. And today we have over 60 employees. As I said, we have offices in 7 states. We have over 9 offices, and we're licensed in 14 different states to do business. Soon that will be hopping to 28 because we're bringing on another architect within and another PE in Indianapolis. We're going to launch another office in Indianapolis within the next 3 weeks. So we are experiencing exponential growth at this time, and we are more than happy to be of service to the partnership. When I joined Cornerstone, I expressed to Chella that prior to coming here, I worked for One West, and I was part of the community, and I want to continue to be a part of the community. And Chella told me to rest easy, Travis, that's what we do anyway. And he's displayed that time and time again, as far as not only what he does financially, but what he does with his time, and what he more than allows us to do, but encourages us to do on a daily basis. So we're gonna go through the criteria for fund eligibility. As Laura said, we worked on this for the past few weeks. We're gonna address the 3 separate groups that she talked about. In my time with One West, there's one thing as far as small businesses go. I've worked for a defense contractor where we have what's called federal solicitations, and they have small business set-asides, and that's fine. But there's a group of companies that are smaller than small. Well, what's considered small by the federal government anyway. So we wanted to make sure that we address those groups. And this can be the 2 guys in the truck, the guy that's cutting hair out of his basement, but he has a business plan, he's ready to go, or perhaps he doesn't have a business plan, but we want to find out exactly where he's at, meet him where he's at, and then realize in what ways can we undergird his efforts. So we'll start with the minority-owned small business awardees to provide overall summary of the project, which the requested fund amount will be utilized. So we want them to explain to us where they're at and what they've done as far as establishing their business. And what we've done throughout this policy, as you see, is that we've taken things that are already in place for different entities, MSD, Louisville Metro Housing, Department of Defense, the SBDC, which is funded by the Department of Defense. And what we've done is take some of the things that they're already using, put them in practice, and then go a step further. Because we need to reach a step further than they are. Because if they were at everywhere they needed to be, then there will be no need for this. But there is a need for this. So the first questions that we ask are same questions that the SBDC asks when you come into our office. Have you obtained your name and domain for your business? Do you have a business license for permits? Do you have a federal tax ID? Do you have you registered for sales tax? Have you obtained insurance? These questions we consider not out of bounds because that's just letting us know if you're ready to do business. And that's not that any of these questions are disqualifiers. This is to gauge where you're at, and we are prepared also to be of service, pointing those out that are not ready to places to go and following up with those places like Ant, places like Jedi, places like the Plan. That we have relationships with that are ready to undergird those businesses. There could be some type of agreement put in place with those places to ensure that what the expectation is being met to assist these small companies. Then we ask them to provide information concerning the funds that they're requesting. Are they the sole business owner that's applying for the loan? Have they ever borrowed money from a lending institution? And if so, are they in good standing or has that loan been paid back? Do you have a business account? You'd be surprised how many small businesses do not have a business account, and that's okay. We need to meet them where they're at. Do you know your credit score?
From a
So,
bank standpoint, that's not okay.
well, the objective will be to ensure that they get a business account. Do you know your credit score? You'd be amazed by how many that walk in that don't know their credit score. Some people may feel this is a little bit of an intrusive question, but any lending organization in the world would at least want to know, when do you foresee potentially being able to begin repayment? And that's not to say that there's a deadline. That's asking when you think you'll be able to repay. That's as a softball of question as you can get there. Provide details expressing the willingness to adhere to the department's financial advisors. So I know you all have a relationship with Bear. So that financial structure of how that repayment will go, they need to agree that whenever you all lay out in front of them, if you're going to be an awardee here, you need to agree to these terms. Whatever that is that you set forth. Our role is to provide recommendation and consultation. You guys will be more on the executing end, and wherever we can help, we will definitely be there to help. Provide details concerning the planned operational entity. Here you're asking, what's the purpose of the project? Will the entity be unique to the community? Is it bringing something new? Or have we seen 1,000 of this or 1,000 of that? And that's, again, not to say that it's a disqualifier. It's just simply a question. What resources does the project provide for the community? Is the planned location within the 9 neighborhoods of the West End? That is critical. Because we need to know that what you do with these resources that are provided to you, you will be a good steward of those resources and you will put them into the community that this is meant to help. Describe the specific group of people expected to utilize the operational entity. So if it's a daycare, are you gonna have something where parents can bring their kids? That would be who's utilizing it. So they won't have to worry about their children at work. You have to describe the operation itself, how that goes about business every day. Explain in what way the entity's daily end user will patronize the business. If it's a traditional business, who's your customer base? You should know this. If you're cutting hair, of course, it's a barber. But if you're saying that you're gonna be a consulting firm, well, who are you consulting? If you're gonna build websites, then are you going out to building websites for small companies, or are you building websites for anyone that comes in? Does the entity plan to implement a community give back program? Now, this is not saying that you're gonna give a percentage of your profits. It could be your time. It could be whatever you're able to do. But the expectation is in some shape, form, or fashion that it's paid for. If you're helped out, we expect you to help out in the community. That's our recommendation, and the conversations that we've had thus far, I believe that Rita and Laura, you've both been on board with that as well.
Yes.
So that is the small business development program. Like I said, you have 3 different areas where you're just asking, is the business actually set up? Asking information about the funds that you're requesting, and then asking for an explanation of the business itself. And I know that this is really just getting put in front of you all, and it'll take some time to digest, which at your next meeting, if I'd be happy to come back. Any questions that you may have, I'll be happy to address those. Or if any questions that you may have during the presentation, please don't hesitate to stop me. I'll be more than happy to address them. So
Am I on the right page? I was gonna say, I want to make sure.
yes.
Okay.
Next, we're going to go to the second group that Laura described, which is the traditional enterprise funding program. This, we envision, will be a group that has some funding. You may have $5 million towards your project, and this is just a random number. But you may need just 2 million more for whatever the case may be. And the partnership may decide that this is potentially someone, we think that this could be a resource in the community. However, no matter who you are, there still should be a criteria that's met and that you are willing to agree to adhere to. So the realization of there actually being something substantial being put into the community can be foreseen. Because if you just say, well, yeah, I'll do it, then we've seen that before. So this is put forth to those developers, large enterprises, those established companies that want a 3rd or 4th location, whatever the case may be. First question right away is, who does the project serve? Describe the specific group of people expected to utilize your operational entity, and explain in what way the entity's daily end user will patronize the business. If it's a liquor store, I doubt very seriously if the partnership will get into business with them. However, at the end of the day, that will be fully your decision. But this will have them address that right away. How does the project benefit the community? Again, if it's a liquor store, I don't see it benefiting the community. So this may not be a disqualifier, but you should address this question. As far as what resources does the project provide for the community, and explain how the community will benefit from the use of the operational entity. So how will the community benefit? If it's a daycare, then automatically. That helps people. For childcare is extremely expensive. And again, will there be some type of participation plan where there'll be some type of discount for community members, which we addressed that a little bit later as far as the traditional enterprises go. Describe the planned location of the operational entity. Again, we're asking, are you located within the western end of Louisville? Is that the plan? Then, by this being a traditional enterprise, we want to know a little bit about the company. Provide information detailing the entity's history and that of its founders. Describe the core competencies of this. Provide the location of its headquarters. Are you out of state? Because if you're out of state and you're just looking for an entry point, then we definitely feel like that we should know what that community impact will be. Are you local? Have you opened up a business and it failed in another neighborhood? So where are you headquartered at right now? Provide DUNS, UEI, and CAGE code. These are federal government qualifiers. And then again, this is not a disqualifier, but if you have a DUNS number, UEI, unique entity identifier, or cage code, that means you're registered in the systems of award management. Means the federal government has vetted your entity, which that doesn't have to be the case, but if the federal government has looked at it, you have to do a IRS validation. Then we know that you've been validated. We could go on to SAM, we could research you even further. There are CPAR ratings on SAM that you can find out about companies and their past performance. And if anyone has had an issue with that company. Historical performance, provide details on a minimum of 5 major projects completed by the entity, including total project cost. So if your largest project was, say, $25,000, I would say that it's a bit of a stretch if you're asking for $3 million. So just, show those projects, show a history of what you've done in the past. Financial documentation, you been a banker? That's a fair enough question. Show us your cash flow, your balance sheets, your profit and loss. Any functioning company should have P&L sheet somewhere. And if you don't, then perhaps you should be in that next tier, not in this tier. And perhaps you should need some undergirding yourself. Provide evidence of profitability, your working capital. That is straight out of SBA loan terms. SBA is, their criteria for loan is not like just something that's out of bounds. So again, there are several references at the end of this document where you can go to those links and you can read where that came from. And as I said, we just maybe go just a step further than what they were originally asking for, because this is to be in the community.
They got something on the historical performance and detailing on the minimum 5 major projects.
William, make sure they can hear you.
What was
What's the question?
on a minimum of 5 major? What is, should we put a minimum? Why was that? Why is that?
Well, generally, when you answer, again, referring back to the federal government, you have to put 3 to 5 projects in construction cost or the cost of the project itself. Just so they can gauge, again, if you're responding to a government solicitation, that's a $10 million government solicitation, but you will only submit 3 projects and none of them are over $1 million. Then they're gonna say, well, wait a minute, let's talk this through, because perhaps you're not quite there. So that's why the project cost is asked. And if you've only had 1 winner, then that's great, but that may not show a historical performance. That could have been that 1 winner that you had a joint venture with, or what are the details behind that? Are you ready to do this alone? If you've done it several times, more than once, then more than likely you're ready to do it alone. So, and like I said, larger companies, they'll have that information on hand.
Right, I'm just saying, say they had 4, are they cut out at the 5? Is that?
None of these are disqualifiers.
Okay.
It's just what the whole list here of items gives us information we can assess.
Yes.
To determine the risk behind making the loan.
To them.
Mhm.
Right.
That's what the intention is.
And provide evidence of being creditworthy and demonstrate a reasonable ability to repay a loan. That's straight out of the SBA's loan policy.
Yeah, I want that.
I would say so. So also, this is a professional organization, you should be able to provide a project plan, which describes exactly how this project will go. As far as the fund request, provide information concerning the amount that's being requested. Provide details of the project's budget in its entirety. So anytime that you want to develop something or you want to construct something, there needs to be a project budget. You can't just say, well, I think this may cost $2 million. And where did you get this information from? So that's straight out of the Department of Justice. They ask for a project budget. Provide details concerning allocations of the awarded funds. What are you going to spend this money? If you say you're buying $50,000 worth of drywall, we need to see evidence of $50,000 worth of drywall. And there needs to be a line item invoice showing that we purchased $50,000 worth of drywall. Now, granted, that's a lot of drywall, but I mean, it just depends on the project. Forecasted timeline. This thing, whatever this endeavor is, it can't go on forever. So you need to at least have a forecast, and if that's adjusted, then within your next leading right segue into the next section, and your communication plan, that information needs to be provided. Outline the anticipated scope of the communication to the partnership, including the content to be conveyed throughout all phases. So how are we gonna communicate? Specify the project's frequency at which updates will be shared. Are we gonna get these once a week, once a day, once every 2 weeks, once a month? With most construction projects, with most projects, period. Some have dailies, but generally it's a weekly progress. Your PMs go in on Friday, they pull everything that was done. Whoever the PM is on the other side or the super on the other side, Monday morning is in his inbox. So if someone asks him a question, he can report that out. Detail the method and structure by which the status of deliverables and milestones to the relevant stakeholders will be communicated. Are we receiving these in emails every day? Do we have a weekly phone call? Identify the designated point of contact responsible for facilitating communication, ensuring transparency throughout the project lifecycle. Who's my point of contact? I don't want to have to call around your entire company just to find out what's going on. If I say that Claudette Collins is our PM, at any moment, any one of you should be able to pick up a phone, call Claudette and find out information. And if she has a question that she does not know, she should be able to get back to you, not that day, but the next, with an answer. The project feasibility is the next portion that we go into. Provide an executive summary. That's just with any type of business plan. A concise overview of the business concept itself. Projected profitability. Provide details and display the forecast profitability. If you're a developer of some sort, again, these are mature companies that we're talking about. These are not the little guys. Your margins, you should know your margins. Marketing and strategy. How are you going to market this? How are you going to put it out there? Who's going to know about it? Detailed plan outlining the target market. Who's that customer base? Marketing channels. Are you using social media? Do you plan on an actual blast on television, radio? How's it getting out there? Organization metrics. Provide metrics of desired end users' annual revenue. Organizational capacity in years in business. How much money have you been making is a fair question. And exactly how your organization is set up, we were able to tell you just sitting here, the years that we've been in business. Right now, we're at 64 employees. By the end of next week, we'll be at 72 of it. Anytime you wanted to reach out to us to find out our capacity, our last year's revenue, or this week's revenue, we can get that to you in a heartbeat. Safety and control, policies, procedures, and measures to ensure safety compliance.
Okay.
So this is during a project. If there's any type of renovation, any type of construction, you need safety and controls. You need QA, QC, quality assurance, quality control. We have on staff certified inspectors, certified safety. If you all decided for us to provide that oversight, we have people ready to do this. They do it at the government level, they do it at a local level. MSD is one of our largest clients here locally for engineering and construction. Our safety people and our inspectors are on site all the time. Site control plan. So this is important because the question comes in play that if you plan to lease a place and your business fails, then are you on hook for the rest of that lease? If you plan to buy the land that the business is going to be on, are you on hook for a mortgage in this? So site control is just a question that needs to be asked. City of Chicago has a revitalization program that's one of their questions that they ask in their program. As we get to the last page, we'll see some of the references again that we've used to gain some of this information from, like I said, we just took it a step extra. Now we're gonna get into the community impact. Have you been a good partner of the community in the past? What's your plan to be a good partner in the future? And are you a good partner now at present? So historical community contribution, explain the organization's community contribution detailing fund allocation, dollar amount, and recipients. If you've done that in the past, that wouldn't be hard to find. Chella has donated to several local charitable organizations. Chella and I, we were just on Kentucky Street doing a engineering assessment a week ago. We've done right on 27th and Bank, we've done a geotechnical investigation just a week ago. If you ask us for that report, we can get it to you very quickly. Anyone else that's coming to the fund for some type of funding, they should be able to get that to you very quickly if they've done it. And again, not a disqualifier, but we need to know if you have. And it would bode well toward the scoring when you all decide internally how we're going to score this. Now, we have a recommendation later on in the document. Detailed current methods of community contribution, if any, beyond financial. So are you volunteering? You just mentioned Juneteenth today. Do you have people out in the community doing any type of work? Again, not a disqualifier, but it would be nice to know. The partnership participation program. So Louisville Metro Housing has a inclusion and participation program that has worked in some instances. I've worked with companies from ARGC to Leo Turner Maintenance that help them legitimize their companies, and they're on housing actual projects right now. Beach Terrace is one of them. They have the senior home that's coming up in just a little bit. We have people that have won awards there as well. Walsh has a project for MSD that we formed a joint venture with CNA. That was a small minority company that was a client of mine at the plan room that we've now formed a joint venture with, and we're undergirding them to be able to help them complete some of those projects. They're an 8A firm. We graduated 8A 2 years ago. Chella was the first person in the history of this country to get 8A extended. It was set for 8 years because of the pandemic. He was able to get it extended to 9 years in this. So
9 years
to 10, right?
9 years.
So, and as soon as I came on board, I talked to him about working with some of the smaller companies I had to work with. I let him know that this company went into 8A. He said, Travis, let's help, let's mentor. And that's what we're doing right now. So with Louisville Metro Housing, again, we followed their model, but took it a step further. Each project funded solely or partially by the partnership will be required to include provisions regarding MBE, WBE, DBE, and that's disabled business enterprise participation as defined below. And we have those definitions there. The percentage of MBE ownership shall be confirmed by a certification provided by one of the certifying bodies listed below, or the applicant must provide evidence satisfactory to the partnership of minority ownership. So if one of these certifying bodies below, which Tri-State Minority Supplier, everyone knows of them, Louisville and Jefferson County Humane Relations Commission, that's the city itself. Commonwealth of Kentucky Finance and Administration Cabinet, that's the state, and MSD Diverse Works Program, that's MSD's program. If there's a minority company that does not have one of these certifications, but the partnership decides that we still want to work with them as a minority firm, we want to be able to put them on to one of these larger projects. You all have the ability to do so. If you vet them and you know that it's minority owned, or why not have them have access to one of these projects? We can help them get the certification down the line, but there needs to be some type of allowance where it's at the partnership's discretion to say, Mr. Whoever, Mrs. Whoever, McDonald's, whoever, building this project, you need to put this supplier on. They're a minority company that can provide service here. They're community based and they're doing business here. Each project funded solely or partially by the project partnership will be required to include provisions regarding MBE, WBE, DBE participation adhering to the percentage requirements outlined in the graph below. So again, this is our recommendation. This is Louisville Metro Housing. I know it works because I witnessed. The only thing sometimes that doesn't work is a larger contracting company will get this project. They have to adhere to that 35%. But then here's this small company just wants to paint. But you give them 900-page blueprint and he doesn't understand what all this other stuff is. And it's a little bit overwhelming to him. So we address that down a little bit further where these are broke out. And a lot of times they can't float being paid 45 net, 30 net. We address that as well. But right now, the percentages that we're looking at is 25% MBE, 10% WBE, 0.5% DBE. Again, that's disabled, not disadvantaged. A lot of disadvantaged certifications will fall under MBE. So, if you have a DBE disadvantaged certification, you generally more than likely have either WBE or MBE. So again, to address some of those smaller companies, the partnership, small package set aside program.
So
Now-
what this is saying is, not only is there a requirement for an MBE, WBE, et cetera, participation, but specifically, an awardee has to show how they're going to work with smaller businesses
Absolutely.
that may not have a large capacity. They're gonna, each project is gonna involve these small businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they may not have that certification as well. So the Department of Defense has what's called a set aside program for small businesses. This will be partnership, small package set aside program. Per the partnership, small package set aside program, 5% of that MBE, WBE, DBE participation requirement shall be set aside for firms with a 3-year average revenue of less than $500,000. That can be anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000. That's at your discretion, though, to say to this large company, this traditional company, that we want you to do business with this company. You have to do business with so many of these smaller entities because they have the ability to, they have the resources to. They just have to be willing to. The participation plan, potential awardees are to provide a detailed description of their organization strategy to ensure the participation requirements outlined within this section are adhered to. You can't just say you're gonna do it. As simple as that. You have to tell us how you're gonna do it. Each awardee is required to comply with the partnership's mandate of net 14 payment terms. Again, some of these companies can't afford to go 30 days, 45 days on. I was involved in the Northern West Hospital program. Some of the smaller contractors, they made sure that the larger contractors, primes, paid them net 14. So as they complete milestones, 14 days later, a check is going into their account.
That's great. Yeah.
Because a lot of them, they just can't make it 30, 45 days.
Right.
You're bankrupt. And that's what a lot of these larger projects does. That large project is the shiny object that I've been chasing my whole life. When you get on it, it absolutely just shut your business down. There's nothing to undergird there. Each awardee is required to develop milestone-driven phase payment structures for ongoing scopes beyond 30 days. Again, if we have a project where you're doing demo, drywalls, framing, painting, and this is all of yours, then after you do the demo, pay him. After you do the framing, pay him. After he does the drywall, pay him. So this is set up where he doesn't have to go through the entire scope that you've awarded him before he gets any type of payment. Community benefits program. This is gleaned from information that we actually participate in with MSD. MSD has a community benefits program. Awardees will be required to participate in partnerships community benefits program. Authorities will designate an approved Louisville West End nonprofit entity to assist with providing employment opportunities, whether that be employment opportunities, education, financial, or in kind. It could be some type of, you can have one of your PMs go there and talk to Urban League. Urban League has a cohort. A 6-week cohort, they take a break for 2 weeks. We've hired, actually, we brought on 4 people from those cohorts since I've come on. The plan room, right there on 18th and Broadway. You can go there and you can help them as well. Russell Place of Promise, change today, change tomorrow. Find one of these places and we can vet those for you as well. And we can put this list in front of those prime contractors to say, you need to have some type of give back to one of these nonprofits.
So let's screech to a halt here, because I think this is a significant item that requires some reflection. We are really saying here that if you want to do business with the partnership, our expectation is that you will become involved in West Louisville, in a community organization in West Louisville, and you're going to explain to us how that's going to be done. Will it be volunteer opportunities for your employees? Will it be some type of contribution? Will it be training? But again, the expectation is if you have a contract with us for development, you must be involved in community development. And I think that's really significant.
Absolutely.
That's significant.
And to Laura's point, that specific method and volume, needs to be quantified. So what's the value of that to your company? If you have a $10 million project, we want that value to be at least 1%. That's MSD already had that set for. Shall I believe the minimum on a $250,000 project, right? It has to be at least 1%. And these are, some of the companies are larger, but some are, 40 people, 30 people, 20 people. You get this contract, that's fantastic, but you have to give back in some shape or form to the community.
Yes.
And it's only asking for 1%.
That's one the minimum.
Yeah.
Now.
Exactly. So, now, after saying all that, for these large firms, there's an evaluation criteria. The way we have it set up right now, our recommendation is that the organizational information is 35 points. Because you need to know, it needs to carry weight of who this company is and their ability to do business. The project plan is 35 points. Did you lay it out for us? Now, that doesn't mean that if you didn't hit every touch point, then you all can score it 20 points out of that 35. Now, if you look at this right here, the narrative and the community impact are sort of right there together. Because the narrative is what you're going to do in the community. The community impact is what you plan to give back to the community. So even though the community impact is 20 points and the narrative is 10 points, combined, they actually overarching to each other for a 30-point weight for the community itself. So that's something to look at there, because you have to be able to say exactly what you're going to do. And you need a plan to show us exactly how you're going to do. So again, we have that graph there. That's our recommendation there. And lastly, we'll come to the last program that Laura mentioned early on, is the non-for-profit business program. And these are questions by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. We're not asking anything that's just, out of bounds. Have you obtained a name and domain for your nonprofit?
Let me say again before you get started, Travis, and I apologize, but I'm so enthusiastic about this. I think, again, those of us that attended those community meetings kept hearing from folks that there are already organizations out there doing good work, that we should figure out how to partner with those organizations, how to work with them. So this section of the fund eligibility criteria addresses that. So the relationship with the smaller businesses and with the developers of large businesses is a loan relationship. This section proposes that our relationship with the nonprofits be a grant relationship. Now, to address our profound opinion that we are a business and we have to stay healthy, what we'll be required to do here is to make an annual decision of how much money we want to devote to grants. We can say on an annual basis, we will identify $100,000 each year that we will share, give away as grants to organizations located in the community. But the board needs to think here about what that grant amount is. But again, this is not a loan, but it is a grant for nonprofits specifically located in Westville. And here's the background on the kind of information we would need about those nonprofits before we would consider them for a grant.
And then just finance chair, I think that this is creating a grant, an opportunity for us to do grants is good. But I think that we have to be prudent with the resources that we have. And, it may not be until we reach a certain level of resources that we start doing grants. Because, right now, it's incumbent on us to make investments that are going to create opportunities and create economic opportunity, create jobs. And that is, really what we're trying to do here, and not be an organization that is just doing grants or giving away money.
Now, this section, our ability to play in this space is going to depend upon our financial health. You are right. And it's going to depend upon advice that we get from Baird. But one thing we can say now is that we have been able, because of how our money is placed, to cover all of our expenses and to have a surplus. So currently, under current circumstances, there is money there for grant making. That if we decided to do it more quickly, it would not put us at risk. But this is a section where the board is going to have to think carefully, listen to our financial advisors, and then make a decision about how much we'd like to devote.
I think there's a surplus now, but we haven't started making investments.
Yes.
And that makes it difficult. We
Yeah.
start making investments. That could be, so like I said,
Yeah.
before we start, my opinion, before we start giving away money or making grants, I think that we gotta make sure that we are still in a position that we are executing on our mission.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are right, but I can't help but think too that when we are at the point where we have finalized this document and that it's available to the public, I think that this is going to give it will be an indication that we listened carefully
100%.
in those meetings. It'll be an indication that we see ourselves as partnering with nonprofits who are already laboring in the vineyard, doing good work. And that we want to do something to assist.
100%.
This is a good public relations tool, and it's also a good community building
Yes, I agree.
for us.
And it also undergirds the notion, William, the point that you made. Right now, we're basing our surplus on interest. We're not doing grants, not grants. We're not receiving grants or officially raising funds. So in my mind,
Return on investments that we made
that's exactly right.
for the community.
That's right. And so in my mind, all of those things would help to undergird this community-based piece as well.
Yes.
And I'm not, look,
Yeah.
I'm not saying to myself.
Yeah. So your point for
Grants that we strategically make now before, I mean, not, I'm
Yeah.
just saying we just got to be prudent. We can't
Yes.
become a grant organization.
That's right.
When we start executing on
Yes,
missions.
That's right.
But then to execute this entire plan, it requires prudence. And I think that, it's been outlined very carefully here. What factors should we be aware of and what factors should we think through before we make a law?
Right.
Okay, so yes, the whole document, I think, calls upon us to be prudent, but again, I think this section here is, really important because, it lets people know we were listening.
Right.
We heard what they had to say and also gives us a chance, I think, as we're doing grant making, we're able to get into it. It gives us a chance to establish partnerships with these organizations. And that's going to be helpful. It's going to lift the whole sense of community.
And what we're trying to do.
Yeah, for West Louisville. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, no problem at all.
And my banker friend here, I understand everything you're saying, and you're right, but, okay, but. Okay,
Spirited debate.
okay.
It was camaraderie. We just had, we earlier. So even though these are nonprofits, just like the small companies, there are questions that need to be asked. There's partial a point of vetting that needs to be done. And just like the small business development program, if you're not there yet, then there's places that you will go to get there. Because we know of people right now that's serving meals on Sunday. One of our employees, I mean, his sister, but they're not a legitimate actual nonprofit yet. So you can go to the Center of Nonprofit Excellence. We'll create that point of contact where you go there and you learn how to set up your nonprofit. Then maybe you come back later. But that's why these questions are asked, because you must be vetted. Have you obtained the name and domain for your nonprofit? Have you selected a Kentucky nonprofit startup corporation structure? Have you nominated a Kentucky registered agent? Have you recruited your board members? Have you considered to bylaws and conflict of interest applying for IRS 501c3? I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Some haven't, but they're doing good in the community. Have you secured an EIN, federal tax exemption, Kentucky tax exemption? Have you applied for permits and licenses within your town and country? So those are just basic questions put forth by the Chamber of Commerce itself. Then, to go a step further, again, just like with the small business, have you borrowed from a traditional lending institution before, and are you in good standing? Do you have a business account? Do you know your credit score? Have you previously applied for government grants before? Because you need to know, have you gone through this process before? And if you have, what was the outcome? Do you have a success rate there? Then the information about the operational nonprofit entity itself. What is your giving focus? Who will this project serve? Will the entity be unique? What's the resource? What resources does the project provide for the community? Do you plan on hiring qualified candidates who reside in the west end of Louisville? So if you're setting up this 501c3, like a change today, change tomorrow. And are you going to bring people from outside of the community? Or are you going to hire people right here that are qualified? Is the planned location accessible to public transportation? If this is a service for the west end of Louisville, can you get there on the bus? Describe the specific group of people expected to utilize the operation and explain how the community will benefit from the operation. Again, all of these are fair questions. So lastly, the compliance acknowledgement statement. Everyone that comes to the partnership for funding needs to realize that there's going to be some oversight. You're not going to be written a check. As you said, nobody's just going to hand out money. It can be a return on investment. And there'll be oversight throughout to ensure that you are doing exactly what you said you would do. So pre-construction, you'll have to acknowledge that you're compliant with this document. During the actual construction or whatever, the renovation, QA, QC inspection, make sure that you don't, we love those in our community that are skilled people, but when you're actually doing commercial renovation, you cannot have someone there that cannot work. So QA, QC removes the partnership from liability because the partnership is ensuring that there is people that are qualified on site doing this work. Required weekly project reports, I mentioned this earlier. Forecasted and actual timelines and budget. Every project should have a forecast and actual, the timeline and the budget, side by side. And if something is missed, an explanation why. The status of the community impact metrics. So you've told us that you're going to do this. Where are we at? Regularly scheduled update meetings. We need to put something, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, depending on the duration of the project, when there'll be an actual face-to-face virtual call, whatever it may be, where things can be actually hashed out. Post-construction, we recommend a quarterly operational outcome analysis for the initial 12 months of the operation. Did you set this place up and then nobody's at home? So you just, for the first 12 months, just quarterly operational analysis. Give us a report. Tell us what's going on. Lastly, it's just the acknowledgement of this statement. This policy that we've developed here, I believe the small business development program and the nonprofit program builds equity in the community. The traditional enterprise revitalizes, but that small business development will lend to that revitalization. However, that's building equity, because if John down on 27th and Broadway that has the little tire shop gets any piece of this fund, everyone in that corridor will know about it.
Oh, yeah.
Same with the nonprofit. Change today, change tomorrow gets a piece of that fund. Everyone on 18th is gonna know about it. So that's building equity. And my hope is throughout this process and just going forward that Partnership is able to partner with the partnership throughout the process, because it's basically our fundamentals. It's what we believe in. I like to believe that we are a for-profit company with a nonprofit arm. What we do is intentional, and what you all are ready to do will be intentional. We love to be a part of it.
Excellent job. Excellent.
Great work. Draft and great beginning, I mean, because there's a lot of very positive things in it, and I mean, the intro from regard to, listen, give more feedback, but I mean, this is pretty, I mean, this is pretty good, too. I mean, from the standpoint of, setting up criteria, yeah, to do what, what we want to do, and based on, like we said, what we learned from the community.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know, I think that we do need to strategically do some things. So I do hear, I hear what you're saying, but I just, I think it's important for the community to really know and understand and us define what this organization is.
And what it is.
And what it is.
Yes.
And, I think that some people think, hey, yeah, man, they got a bunch of money over here, they just gonna be getting, nah, man, we can't do it, we don't have that. 30 million can't support everything. If we're making investments, and,
Yes.
with these grants that we do, I mean,
And if you're building for sustainability, I mean, this thing is 20 years down the road, you have to be very strategic and very prudent in terms of investments and everything. So for it to live in perpetuity.
right.
Let's,
Oh,
Yes.
so in the framework that you all put together also includes the criteria that they have to pledge themselves to get back.
Right.
So it helps us leverage our resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was curious because I know you were going page by page and taking notes. I was curious as to your thoughts of it as well.
So, Mike and Alicia, do you have any comments or questions? How is this hitting you?
She's trying to come off me, I believe. Yeah, I'm gonna come over here.
I was waiting for Michael. Michael, you got something first?
Ladies first.
I really don't have any questions. My mind went straight to finances as far as like certified payroll, if that's gonna be implied or anything of that nature. But I don't have any questions. I thought the presentation was good. I wish I did.
Okay. Mike, what about you? Any comments or questions?
I mean, I think it's a pretty solid framework. One concern that I've kind of got, I don't really know how to verbalize it, but so when we get into, I mean, I think the West End has a lot of what would really be considered micro businesses. And most of them aren't going to really have a lot of the oversight that we're asking for and compliance stuff is going to require some amount of dedicated staff to handle that. And I don't know that that exists. So the concern that I have is that we would be creating a structure where the only way that the smallest of the businesses can access some of this is through larger entities, so that it kind of becomes somewhat of a pass-through, which in and of itself isn't a problem. We're trying to match, due diligence with, helping folks. So, we have to make sure that the structures are in place to ensure that things are being done. But I think there are some barriers to the smallest of groups. And by the same token that, they can't, if they can't do net 30 or net 45, how much of a stretch is it for them to put themselves out there to apply for something that's not as much of a sure thing? And this, there's a compliancy load up front to this, and we might be excluding some of the smallest businesses. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem, because we don't want, we want to do our due diligence to who we're funding, but we also don't want to set up any, make the barriers of entry, as easy to cross as possible, if that makes sense.
Well,
Jimmy, hold on, you said a lot there. I just want to make sure that I understand what you said. I think
Okay.
what you're saying is that you want to make sure that, the smallest companies in the West then have still opportunities to be able to be looked at gaining funding. Is that basically what you're saying was the major concern?
Yeah, and that we're not, I think we need strict standards, but we also need flexibility, and I think some of that's here. That we're not excluding anybody just by the process, if that makes sense.
issue that you're zeroing in on is one that we spend a great deal of time talking about. Again, part of what we hear and part of what we know from living in West Louisville is that there are a lot of small businesses that people are operating. And some of those businesses can go to the next level and be sustainable if they have a partner who's willing to work with them. Now, the questions and the criteria that were all listed under the small business group, remember that Travis kept saying that it's a way, those questions and all are a way of gathering information. It does not mean that if the answer to the question is not X, that we're going to pass by P. But the major component that we thought of is that as we begin to get these applications from small businesses, we need to partner with a resource in the community that can help them to step up to the next level. It's not appropriate for us to keep saying no or you're not ready, without providing a resource. So they're a business development organization with whom we can establish a relationship. And anyone who applies to us for a small business loan that we deem not to be ready, we can send them to our partner for the information, training, and uplift that they need in order to make it to the next level. It's not in our best interest just to continue to tell people no without setting out some resources for them to get to yes.
That's what
Okay,
yeah.
I heard you.
Yeah.
Some of these businesses are gonna be smaller than the defined small business.
Yeah.
So that was what I thought that you were
Yeah.
getting into in that, so I
Yeah.
thought we were kind of addressing that. Now, still, we wanna make sure that, you know, we address that and do it well, but
Yeah,
I felt like that was what we were speaking.
yeah,
And we have organizations at the ready
yeah,
that are ready to help these companies that are not prepared, because simply because you want funding does not mean that you're ready for funding. So that does not mean that you're turned
Well, we
away.
do that in the bank all the time.
But the difference is when you walk out of the bank, that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
Here, we
Right.
have the Whale, we have GLI, we have JEDI, we have Apex, we have SBDC, we have the Plan Room, we have AMP. We have all of these organizations that we're willing to provide a detailed summary of what their services are and who these people should go to. And we will go there with them. We will make sure that it's followed through. This is not just point.
uh-huh.
This is a partnership.
Yeah, we can
Partner,
establish a
but
contractual relationship with
Yes.
these organizations.
Mhm.
We can pay them to deal with these folks that we've had to say no to, so they're not just left at no. It's, again, it's not in our best interest just to tell a bunch of people no and not provide information and resources to take them to the next level.
Yeah,
If we see ourselves as a partner with
Right.
the community, then we've got to do more than say no.
yeah. So it's not just pointing across the street and saying,
Go
okay, go over there. It's we're hand in hand, walking them over there and helping them to get the undergirding that they need.
Yeah,
then hold those organizations accountable.
Yes,
Did you provide this service? What was the outcome? If there's a MOU in place with these organizations, then there needs to be a report, the same way we're asking those traditional enterprises to provide
Mhm.
reports, and that's part of their deliverable. That organization should provide a report. What have you done? You can't just say, well, we took them in, we
right.
did onboarding, and now they're signed up to be a
Yeah.
client.
all
Okay,
over,
now what?
all over West Louisville, there are caterers. There are lawn
Mhm.
services and people who not just cut grass, but will plant and even design what you want to plant in your yard. There are people who do small housework and chores who, with a little bit of assistance,
Mhm.
can become more viable businesses. And giving those people a way to step up, to
Yeah.
move to the next level, lifts the whole community. That's part of what our role is, what we see ourselves doing. It's not
Yeah.
just these big developers.
Right.
It's these mid-level companies, these smaller companies. That if we find a way to lift them up, it's gonna create a real sense of success and advancement.
And it directly speaks to the thing that I preach all the time is that it's the partnership, not business as usual. Because again, in my mind, there's no room for us not to get this right. So we have to spend the time to make sure that we're covering all the bases when we're talking about businesses and individuals. Because too often people are told no, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Or you don't qualify, and that's the end. And they're like, well, how do I get to where I need to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
So
critical.
how does that sound, Mike? Does that address some concerns that you?
Yeah, and I think I did a poor job of their explaining. It, I mean, what you described, I mean, the landscapers, the caterers, all of those folks, you know, they're an untapped market, like they're usually not big enough for banks to want to deal with. You've got, small, property flippers, that, there's nobody, who's gonna take the worst property on the block and take the risk for that. Larger groups aren't, it's not big enough, it's not a big enough project, it doesn't scale. It's not 30 apartments. So, having a carve out for those, but I think we need to be intentional in that the appearance of the requirements don't scare people off. So I think, we need to have the accountability, but we need to make sure that people know, we're trying to make this work for all of us. Yeah, there's, all these pages of questions, come talk to us. A lot of, the guy doing the landscaping is, so busy, in June, July doing the landscaping, like he doesn't have time for paperwork and doesn't want to deal with it. Now, October might be a different story, but a lot of these smaller businesses, like, they're scared of paperwork. People, in bigger groups with bigger bureaucracies, like, that's part of the process, but that's, in really small businesses, they're kind of averse to it. So I think we need to make sure, that we engage with them up front, that, it is open, it is available to them. It's not, kind of like where you have a lot of things where, I don't know, there's a cartoon for education, well, I can't remember all the details on that. But, you can have the water for them to drink, but if they can't reach the water, or if they see that it's, out of reach, or feel that it's out of reach. So I think we need to be intentional about that, and that it's, if it is something different, then, we need to make sure and not just wait for them to come, but be intentional about, what do they see as barriers, and how do we help them overcome it?
Good point, Mike. That's a really good
Yeah.
point, because,
Before, Ms.
We have-
Regan,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I got a two-part real quick statement. I get Michael's concern, but let me say this: there's been a lot of projects in Louisville now that I've had conversations. So even though they're short staffed or they don't fully understand, if they want to put that bid in, if they really want to, they're going to find their staff. They're going to find the people around them that understands it. I've dealt with people that flat out said they don't feel comfortable with speaking. They don't know how to interact with individuals. If they really want that contract, they're going to find a way to get their staff and get those people around them. Second, the grant. I know you gave a list of nonprofit organizations. I know it's like One West, AMP, those individuals. My concern is, I just want to make sure that we're vetting them as well. I know that we said it, but I do really want to make sure we vetted them, because some of these programs started out strong, but now the community is not embracing them as they used to when they first started. So I know you kind of hit on that. I just wanted to highlight that really quickly to make sure that we vet them as well.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so I think we definitely think it was a good proposal, good start, and I look forward to having more conversation. And Mike, like I said, appreciate the points. And like I said, I'm sure that there'll be other dialogue going forward on this. But I do really think that, I think that we got a good start here, and look forward to having that dialogue and really getting this out and starting to execute on what we're saying.
And William, on that note, with what Mike was saying, what I was gonna share is that, Mike, what you're saying, it's gonna be incumbent upon us as an organization to wrap our public relations and communication process around anything that we roll out.
Right.
And that is on the burner as well. We can't just have a press conference and put this out there without having a plan for how it's going to be properly communicated.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say, you know, we're not about redundancy. We're not about building this huge staff. So to have a team of people to help us to enforce this would not necessarily mean we're creating that within the organization.
That's right. Because there are folks out there doing it.
Yeah.
Do it in the same way that we've developed a relationship with L Home to do our property tax
Yeah.
program. They also have a small business lending program where they bring along small businesses. If someone is going to be one of our awardees, then
Mhm.
certainly we can further develop our relationship with L Home
Mhm.
because they're experienced at it. They
Right.
can help them in terms of what their obligated financial performance is. They can help them to meet that.
Yeah.
And in the same way they haven't foreclosed on anybody's home, we're not paying their taxes back prior to us. Not paying their tax loan prior to us being involved with them. They have a similar record with small businesses that they help. They know how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. They know how to do it.
Maybe you got any comment?
I was just gonna respond about Mike, that
Mm.
a lot of this is a communications issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, all that's gonna end up wrapping it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is an exciting point for us to.
Most definitely.
This
Yeah.
is very exciting.
Anybody else on the team got anything they wanna say?
Just want to add, to Mike's point, I think it's a very valid point. I was a small business, very small business in my basement like that. So the information is, power. So, taking those such small businesses to where those resources are itself is a big step, big support.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started the business and I came across an organization called SCORE, which is a nonprofit organization, is a former business owners and available at the federal building to assist businesses that's starting up. And that was a wealth of information for them. So as long as the business, the owner is hungry and want to learn and grow in that pursuit, and so in that vein, and these organizations are there, and then we're going to be assuring them to such organizations. And that itself will provide a big support.
And I think that's what Alicia was speaking to as far as
Yeah.
that organization wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It
Mm-hmm.
made a difference to me.
And let me say one last thing, and I'm going to be quiet, and I don't mean to mother him, this young man. It's absolutely bad. I have enjoyed every single conversation I've had with him. He is a clear thinker and is very sincere in what he's helping us to do, so.
Let me tell you,
Big ups to.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you know about Laura, but if she's giving those type of kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Fabric.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, that was kind of our new business segment there. Is there anybody else got anything that they'd like to address or comment on before everybody just enjoy and I guess celebrate the rest of the Juneteenth day? Michael, you good? Alicia, thank you. Thank everybody for coming and we'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. So we only missed Dr. Crackett, the only other committee person that wasn't able to be here today. Thank you all. I was going to also say,
Cornerstones, David,